Hello, everybody. It's Rod Walker with Trading Earth Real Estate, and today we're going to talk about the last phase of the buying process, which is the time when you actually have the house under contract in the due diligence period, while the house is under contract, just before you close. And first of all, let me say that no, I'm not too lazy to shave. I shaved my beard off back in March, I think, and I've come to the realization that I look better with a beard, so it's on its way back. Okay, so the first couple of sessions we talked about getting pre-qualified for a loan. We talked about making the offer, writing the contract, and today we're going to talk about what happens once you've made the offer, the offer's been accepted, and you're under contract. So one of the first things that will happen is your contract will be sent to a closing attorney or a title company, and sometimes it's one and the same. In fact, often it's one and the same. And the first thing they will do is a title search, and they will pull the title to the house just to make sure that the people who say they own it actually own it, and there's not some long lost relative somewhere in the past or somebody else with a claim to the house that may cause you problems after you buy the house. So they're going to make sure that that's all clear, that the title is clear before we proceed. And once they determine that the title is clear and everything's okay, then we're going to go on and move on to the inspections. And I talked about that a little bit last time. The inspections are optional, but you probably need to choose to have the inspections more often than not. Uh, the general inspection is the first one, and this inspector will go in and pretty much inspect everything in the house: the roof, the walls, the AC system, the HVAC, the electrical system. They'll make sure that your wall sockets are grounded. They'll make sure everything is safe and everything is up to code. And also the same thing with plumbing, roof, and pretty much everything to do with your house. The foundation, that's a big major thing for the inspection, because a lot of the older houses have problems with the foundation, and when we have these inspections we can find that out before we get to closing, and we can do something about it. And generally what we would do about it, if the inspection comes up with a lot of problems, or any problems actually, but especially if it's a lot of problems, your agent, your buyer's agent, will negotiate with the listing agent and try to get the seller to either fix the problems or take money off the price of the house, so that the buyer can afford to fix these problems once they get in the house. Uh, the next inspections there's a sewer inspection, which is pretty important, especially in the older neighborhoods here in Birmingham, like places like North Crestwood. A lot of these houses are over 100 years old. South Side is the same way. And when these houses were built, the city was using like old terracotta pipes for sewer pipes. And over the years, these things they get full of roots. Roots grow into them, which, you know, that problem can usually be solved by boring the pipe out. But a worse problem is sometimes if it's terracotta pipes, they can actually collapse, and if that happens, then you've got to dig that pipe up and replace it. That's a big problem. So hopefully, if we have the sewer inspection, we can nip that in the bud before it happens, and we can make sure that we don't get to closing and have this problem. There's a termite inspection. It's usually called the wood infestation report, and you get a pest control company will go in, uh, do the inspection, make sure there's no prior termite damage, and if there is, the report will tell you all about it, and you can choose what to do about that. And especially to make sure there's no active termites. If there's active termites, you're going to get the pest control company to go in and take care of that. There's a thing called a termite bond. Some people call it a bond, some people just call it a termite agreement, that the seller probably has with a pest control company that will come around and do regular, you know, quarterly visits to make sure that the termites stay away. So, and a lot of times the seller can transfer that to the buyer, but if the seller doesn't have one, then the buyer would probably need to purchase a termite agreement with a pest control company. Uh, another thing you may want to consider is a survey. Uh, Sellers often have surveys that the buyer can that can just be transferred to the buyer. If they don't, the buyer may want to actually have a survey so they'll know where all their landlines are, or even if they do have one, they may just want to have one to an updated one to make sure everything is current. Okay, once we're done with most of the inspections, then we're going to think about the loan approval process. Now, when you got pre-qualified, when we first started out to make the offer, pre-qualification and pre-approval is not the same thing. Pre-approval is when the loan is gone to underwriting with your loan provider, your mortgage company more than likely, and that's when they give absolute approval, saying, yeah, absolutely, we're gonna finance this house for this person. We're going, the money will be here, and once that happens, then you can usually get a clear to close with your closing attorney, and sometimes they will even move up the date if everything is looking good. The closing attorney will usually send out closing documents to the buyer and the seller, and this will put a detailed list of all expenses that will be in the closing. So it will tell you exactly everything that's all the money that's coming out and the amount of money that you will have to pay, or maybe sometimes get back when the closing actually happens. So that will happen in the just a few days before closing. And one of the last things we do is do a final walkthrough of the house, where the agent and the buyer actually walk through the house one last time before closing to make sure that everything is as they think it is, and make sure that the buyer doesn't change their mind about anything. Make sure everything still looks good. So that's pretty much it. I mean, once we get through most of this stuff, then we can move in the house, and that's what our goal is. So hopefully, if you're in the market out there, these videos have helped you a little bit to understand what the process is, and hope you enjoy your new home.